And AI, I call it the new kid on the blocks. Perhaps, it's been around for a while now, but it's clearly a lot of people focusing on it. And I guess a lot of them are looking at the compute side of things, but I'm thinking, where there's compute, there needs to be the storage. But before we get right into that, it'd be good just to understand what you think are the biggest challenges facing enterprises. They want to adopt Gen AI solutions now. What are the sort of challenges facing them?
So at the high level now, above the storage layer, we'll get to the storage layer separately. First is, how am I going to get the budget to do this? Item one. B, where's all the data I want to use? If I make cars, and I'm big, not a little car company, but a big one, I've got screws, right? And I got screws in small cars, medium cars, big cars, SUVs, crossovers, luxury vehicles, and if I'm really big, maybe even vans and professional trucks, right, that are sold into the business side. Those all use different screws and nuts and bolts. So if you're going to do supply chain AI, you better make sure you know where all the data is. Otherwise, you're getting the wrong screws that work in a small car and are on your approved vendor list, right? Screws from Philip Alsop, and they're certified, but they send them to the car building, big giant trucks that are used to move, food and move all kinds of stuff, right, that you see on the highway. That doesn't help you. So A, where's the data sources? B, what are the legal issues? Okay, if you use open source LLMs and SLMs and some of the other things, if they're open source, you could expose your corporate data and make it public even though you didn't intend to. Obviously, around that same issue, you need to make sure that you are not violating people's legal rights, because then they sue you. Okay. Where's the money to do this? Cyber's been an issue, right? Expenditures at the CIO budget aren't going up. They're flat to down. So how do I factor in AI as well? So those are the highest level things from an AI perspective you need to do. Making sure you know where all the data is, understanding legal ramifications, both pro and con, so you do the right thing and don't expose your valuable corporate data. And next thing you know, your public financials are out before they're supposed to be legal, but they're legally out, but they're legally not supposed to be out, but they're legally out because you used an open source LLM or SLM instead of a proprietary one. So now your data gets to be out there. People can see your preliminary financials and buy and trade your stock, which is of course illegal on all the stock exchanges, but it's illegal for it to be out. But then you exposed it by not picking the right LLM or SLM with the right legal protection. So, AI, I went to an IDC conference on a lot of topics. One whole day was on AI. 2 sessions in the entire day for an hour were on the technology. The other 6 sessions, that 8-hour day, were all on legal ramification, legal issues, governance inside of your enterprise. And it was all, there was a few technologists, but it was mostly a bunch of attorneys and government people from government agencies all over the world saying, look, you got to do this, that, or the other thing, because we got a bunch of laws here and AI doesn't know what the law is. You do. So if you don't do those right, that's a big exposure. So that's at the highest level of what you need to do it successfully, and make sure you don't, end up in court or end up with your shipping the screws to the wrong factory, or not even ordering the right screws, so you can't build trucks for a week till you get the screws, right? I mean, those are big financial issues for giant companies.
Okay. And in terms of the actual storage itself,
Mm-hmm.
what are the solutions that your sales Infinidat offer in terms of helping folks when it comes to AI adoption, within the enterprise? Or what can storage contribute?
So what we've done is create an AI RAG, retrieval augmented generation. What that is basically an architecture that allows us to use existing storage. It allows us to integrate with vector databases, LLMs, and SLMs. Of course, the customer needs to make sure the data is proprietary, right? Because we're providing that architecture. They need to say, oh, yeah. We don't want to use anything public, right? We just want our own stuff. They need to tell us where it is. It could be on our storage. We will support anything with the NFS protocol. So that includes not just files, but as you know, all the big database vendors support NFS. So it allows you to use, structured data, Oracle, SAP, right? All the NoSQL databases that are structured, and also pull things like pictures of every screw, right? You've got a picture of every screw, but they're also got, the quantities and the part number in a database, right? So you can pull out that data, anything that's NFS. We do have a cloud edition of our technology, the InfuseOS Cloud Edition. So if you have InfuseOS Cloud Edition deployed at either Microsoft or Azure, our RAG will allow you to pull data out of there because it's proprietary, right? It's our array, if you will, sitting in the cloud. And we also will allow you to incorporate non-Infinidat storage. So if there's files and or databases with NFS sitting on storage that's not ours, we will allow you to pull from that as well. Remember, most of our accounts, as you know, Philip, are Global Fortune 2000. And some of them only use us, but that's very rare. And same thing for our competition, having, as you know, come from IBM Storage, where I was the CMO, and EMC, where I was the Senior VP. The bulk of those customers, for those, they use 2 to 3 storage vendors. That's just the reality. So having an AI RAG that allows you to pull, as long as they know where the data is, it's over here, it's on these 12 EMC arrays, it's on these 5 Infinidat arrays, it's on these 2 cloud versions, right? Then we could gather all that data. And that is a value that an AI RAG delivers, because it allows you, in many cases, existing storage is fast enough. So you can use that existing storage. You don't have to buy custom storage, which certain people are positioning as AI. If you look at the part number, or actually look at the performance of that part number, it's the same as their other storage. They just kind of repackage it. We're not doing that, right? So we're, making our existing storage work. Now, by the way, we have a number of things coming in September, so I don't want to spoil it, but more things coming in September that'll be even faster. That's great. But what we have now will work for all these. So the AI RAG allows that holistic view, as long as they know where their storage is. Anything NFS, both structured data and unstructured, like your files. Our storage, but also our competitors. So we know that many people are heterogeneous in nature, and even be able to grab it from the cloud. And then the key thing you want, so let's take the example of the screws. So that's supply chain. They're building stuff all over the world every day, right? If it's a big car manufacturer, GM, Toyota, Mercedes, they got factories everywhere. They're building all the time, right? So you've got to be able to get the screws to all those different factories all over the world. And guess what? At the end of today, a bunch of factories, maybe they're out of screws today. You know what I mean? I mean, it changes. So the idea of the AI RAG is when you use your proprietary data, it's in real time. Things like supply chain, finance, there are a number of things that if you want to use AI for, they change every single day in an enterprise. So what this allows you to do with the AI RAG is just constantly iterate. And it iterates because guess what? The number of screws you use and where they go changes every single day. And by the way, what if you decide that now Alsop Incorporated has got another screw that we want to use? You got to put that into the database, right? But 3 weeks ago, they only used 1 of Alsop screws. Now they're using 2. Then they add the Herzog screws. And as that changes over time, and then they add someone else's screws 3 weeks later, or add a second vendor, so it's Alsop and Herzog for the same kind of size and look of the screw, the AI has to know all that. And it is changing. It's just the way a smart human is constantly learning, right? When you're a baby, you're learning, not though you internalize it. And hopefully when you die at 177, you're still learning. You're reading the newspaper, you're watching the sports. Sports is a perfect example. Every day there's a new football game, whether it's American football or UK football, right? Every day is a new tennis match. Every day is a swim meet. Every day is American baseball or cricket, if you like that, which American baseball, as you know, is based off of cricket. And every day it's different. And the champion this year, 10 years is so you're always learning, right? If you follow sports, they're always changing. Well, in a corporation, that's exactly the same. Finance data, all the data you're looking for is always changing and adapting. So you want your AI RAG to always be able to change and adapt and always be up to speed. Otherwise, it's old data. So I don't care who won the World Cup. I mean, I might, but I probably don't care who won the World Cup in 1932. However, I may care who won last year, because is the team who won last year as good as the team this year, or who's fighting what for what? So again, you're always learning. It's always changing. And what you do in a corporation is exactly the way sports are. Every season is a new season, right? New players, new rules, who's good, who's not. And when you look back, you got to know the old data too, right? But you also have to be ready for the new data. And that's what an AI RAG solution can do to make sure you're always using A, your proprietary data so you don't end up with these legal issues. B, that the data is accurate continuously because so much of enterprise data is changing every single day. So if you're going to use AI on your supply chain probably changes every day. So you got to make sure you're ready to use it.
And I mean, I think you've covered some of them there, but in terms of how RAG benefits the enterprise, it'd be good to understand, I don't know, things like inaccuracies,
Oh,
training,
yeah, absolutely.
just things like that. Give us the lowdown there if you can.
Sure. So the idea of RAG is A, you can use existing storage architectures. B, they can be heterogeneous, which can save you money. Uh, C, the idea of the AI RAG when it's constantly changing is it's always up to date. So the odds of hallucination are low, right? So you know who's playing on what team right now today. Not that so and so was the best player 27 years ago and they're probably going to win the championship. Well, guess what? The guy retired 25 years ago. So that's inaccurate data, but that is a hallucination, right? That it's going to predict that this team is going to win the World Cup when the key 5 players on that World Cup team the year after retired, which was 25 years ago. So what you do is A, avoid hallucinations. B, by having the data being continuous, it's hopefully always up to date. C, using proprietary data helps you avoid all those legal entanglements. And it's very important that AI RAG be up to date. I mean, that is what an AI RAG solution will do, is you're going to use the most recent data that changed from yesterday. So you order the right parts and send them to the right factory for what they need tomorrow. And that's really why you want to make sure that you're using A, the proprietary data, B, it's always being updated by the RAG, okay? And C, that you know where the data is, which is none of the storage vendors know where the data is. That's up to the end user, right? The customer say, here's where this data is on all the screws or on all my finances. And that allows you to avoid the hallucination issue. It gives you that accuracy that you want, right? And allows you to leverage your internal data without worrying about any legal repercussions because it's your data. You're not looking at things from other vendors, which do come in if you use open source legally. You can see their stuff, but they can also see your stuff. So now, whatever screws you use, let's say you locked up a deal with the best screw manufacturer in the world, and they're the great price, but they're also the most durable. Well, guess what? They can see who that manufacturer is now because you used an open source LLM. So they know the name of the manufacturer. They could call them up and say, you know what, those screws you're selling to Herzog Auto, I'm Alsop Auto, and I'm even bigger. I want to buy those screws too. So you're exposing all kinds of information. So using that proprietary data with the AI RAG avoids legal issues, keeps you always up to date. And that's what you need to avoid hallucinations and to make sure that you're always accurate, because accuracy is critical. Otherwise, what value is it? If you ship the wrong screws around all the time, humans can make that same exact error. And by the way, a really experienced human probably won't. So you want AI to be a complement to what humans do, not to replace humans. And, you know, everyone makes mistakes. Well, AI makes mistakes all the time. That's why it's called AI hallucinations, right? They can be much wider, which is why you see some companies are backing off of things like, you know, facial recognition. If it's not done properly, next thing you know, I'm in jail and it's not me. It's somebody else who may not even look like me, but hallucinates and thinks I'm the bad guy when I'm really not. And inaccuracies are probably worse in a corporate setting, right? It could be even worse.
Okay, and just one other thing, I'll just check. I mean, do they also, is it important they integrate into sort of multi-cloud, I mean, multi-cloud and hybrid environments
Yeah,
as
that's why I brought
well
up our
exists, but
that's why I brought up our InfuseOS Cloud Edition, because our InfuseOS Cloud Edition works with Microsoft and with Amazon. So if they put data out in our InfuseOS, that's basically like our InfiniBox product. And so the AI RAG can see, as long as that data is NFS data, whether it be a database with NFS or files with NFS, we can grab that data from our Cloud Edition. So it gives you hybrid multi-cloud, but it's protected because it's your data sitting in your instance of Amazon or your instance of Azure. So when you do it that way, it gives you that hybrid multi-cloud integration as well, which is what we had talked about a little earlier about our InfuseOS Cloud Edition allows you to have that.